Welcome to Moving Iron with Casey Seymour and Greg Peterson, the podcast for anyone and everyone involved and interested in the business of ag equipment. If you want to understand what trends and market forces are impacting the price of your iron, you've come to the right place. Buckle up, it's time to move some iron.
Hello and welcome to Moving Iron Podcast. I got Greg Peterson, Machinery Pete, back here with me to talk about what's happening in the marketplace. Greg, how you doing today, bud?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Doing well. So we had a rarity here. I mean, we've I don't know, you've been on my Moving Iron podcast 4 or 5 times and way back when, and I heard we're doing this stuff together, and I think this was the first time that we actually had a chance to record one in the same place.
Yeah, it was fun today. We were Hamilton, Illinois. Always good memories going to visit my friends at Sullivan Auctioneers and Big Iron. And yeah, I was teasing you. How many microphones did you bring for the recording today?
I had 5 mics there today. Yeah.
I've been doing TV about 20 years. I've never seen anything like that. You are prepared, brother. That was awesome. I also liked how I've kind of been teasing our friends at Farm Journal for years. I'm like, I just want to do content where there's like 6 or 8 people around a table and we just talk. And that's what we had today. It was super fun.
Yeah, a lot of good times. So this podcast is a little bit different than ones we've done in the past. You know, Greg and I were fortunate enough to go to Sullivan, and we didn't have a great opportunity to continue the series I've done with our sponsor, John Deere, at Commodity Classic. We got that second edition of that coming out. We're talking about sprayer upgrades and those kind of things, and spend some time doing that. Also had Chip Nelliger come on today and talk about what he sees happening in commodities, because there's nothing happening in commodities right now, Pete. It's just gumdrops and candy canes and real simple things. There's no crazy things happening over there. That's the way Chip and those guys put it all the time. Like we're one tweet away from markets going up or markets going down, and then another tweet comes back up, and we're right back in the game again. So it's just
one tweet. We're hanging by a thread. It'll all be okay.
Hanging by a thread. That's right. Well, let's hit on this a little bit. So, obviously, Greg, you've followed auctions forever, and that's your niche. That's the thing that you really are known for, and really keep a good pace about what's going on in the marketplace, considering how things relate back to the auction marketplace. And we've heard a lot of gloom and doom here of late, but if you watch the auction market, you're not seeing that gloom and doom. It's we're seeing some all-time highs on a lot of things. Matter of fact, I've watched two machines sell that were very impressive sales. There was that fence sprayer, which we'll talk about that one here for sure, but that was over $500,000 sale for that particular piece of equipment. I watched that Steiger 715 sale that Matichak's had a week ago, 2 weeks ago, something like that. That brought $579, which was probably honestly about $50,000 more than I thought it was going to bring when you start looking at things.
Yeah.
But as you watch this stuff come together and you're tracking these things, the auction marketplace, all things considered, are showing some incredible numbers as you look what's going on there.
Yeah, agree, Casey. I mean, it was interesting. So the fourth quarter, normally November, December is go time. Even in the down periods over the years, I've been tracking auction prices. That always has been the strongest period. And this year, or this past, it's kind of almost down a little bit again. Only maybe the second or third time I've seen November and December be kind of down a little bit, going back 25 years. But boy, since the calendar flipped here, the last month or so, I've seen some really strong prices. I mean, that sale you referenced with the Fendt 937H, I think that was a 24 model with over 500 hours on that sprayer. Sold last Thursday in Eubank, Kentucky by Sullivan Auctioneers, who we were visiting with today. $500,000 and a quarter. That's the highest auction price ever on a sprayer by $16,000.
Yeah.
And, I've tried to be careful over the years about describing the market based on one sale price event, because we work with 1,300 auction companies. So within the space of a few days, either way, just if we talk sprayers, I mean, I think that same day, last Thursday, Steffes sold it was a 23 model John Deere 412R, 567 hours in Wahpeton, North Dakota. I think it was an online farm auction. And that brought, 400 and, I can't read my handwriting here. It was the highest auction price ever on a 412R. And then 2 days later in Hart, Michigan, good folks at Miedema Auction had a nice online farm auction, and they had a Hagie SDS 12 that was a 24 model, 500 and some hours on it. That brought 435, so second highest auction price ever on a Hagie. And then I think just yesterday out of Arkansas, my friend Doug Stovesand Auction, great auction company down there, they sold it was a Deere 408R, only 256 hours on it. I don't know if it was a 23 or 4, but that came in the third highest auction price ever on a 408R, and that was out of Arkansas. Yeah. So, you swirl that together, and that sale with the Fendt sprayer, I mean, our friends at Sullivan's there, they were telling me, and they're as plugged in as anybody, but that auction event, I mean, it came in over $1 million over what they thought.
Yeah.
And that's what you were talking about. Things are just a little stronger here the last month or so. And, it doesn't always match up with the verbiage. We know times are, it's tight times. But for a lot of reasons that you and I have talked about here the last few episodes, the sales of new have really slowed down. Farmers got to farm. And when you need that sprayer, while keeping one under warranty, low hours, when the right one shows up, you can see it's very competitive out there.
Yep. I talked about a little bit of this when we were at Commodity Classic on a couple different things I did with on the platform. A couple different things I looked at, and then a couple questions came up like, "Hey, what's hot now? What's not hot now?" And I kind of say, I can't really point to any one thing that says, "Hey, this is hotter than something else," or like, "Hey, this is a really kind of a big outlier out there." But I did point to sprayers, and I said, if I was looking to do something right now, a couple things: one, timing, what time of the year you're looking at some sprayer stuff, but it just feels like, and kind of the same stuff you talked about there, that the sprayer market is heating up at a different rate than what we've seen even row crop tractors, which typically that's the voice of the equipment marketplace, right? So when things sort of tick up even a little bit, row crop tractors take off and fly, and as soon as things start to tick down, they're the last thing to really slow down on the sell wise. And you're really not seeing a lot out of the row crop tractor market right now that you can point at and say, "Hey, we're seeing some movement now. We're seeing some good auction numbers come out, no doubt about that." But we're not seeing it. It just feels like to me, when I look at the sprayer marketplace, it feels like it's a little bit stronger, maybe headed in there's maybe a little bit of a tailwind on the sprayer side of the market than what we've seen maybe in the last 18 months, right? It feels like right now it's way stronger than it's been.
Yeah, I think, again, what we talk about a lot, Casey, how, on the auction front, the sale prices can change quickly. I mean, if we talk about Hagie SDS 12, I remember we filmed an auction, I think it was December 12th, in Bible Grove, Illinois, which is kind of the south central part of the state. Schmid Auction had the sale. Trent Schmid, great guy. Super nice farm auction, live in-person sale, so it was a fun day. And I think they had a SDS 12 that only had like 182 hours on it, and that brought 428 on that sale. And Trent promotes his sales really, really well. So 428 hard cash in December, which is usually, like we say, that's usually maximum sale price time. Where here we are, so that SDS 12 that sold in Hart, Michigan was March 8th. So less than 3 months later, you've got one with 500 hours on it going 435. Right. So not a huge, it's $7,000 difference, but way more hours on it. And that's the beauty of the auction market. It's, it's in December that was still pullback. Now, maybe that was an offshoot of all the dealer stuff that had been selling the second half of 24 auction, whereas that's kind of dried up, comparatively here early in 25. But you add it all up, and it's, I guess I find it interesting because there's so much uncertainty right now. Not to take Moving Iron podcast in political directions, but there's just, there's so much going on. And normally, over the 35 years I've been doing this, when there's uncertainty, that usually puts pressure on the farmer to kind of hold the cards a little tighter.
Right.
Now, whether it's just people feel optimism for our future here the rest of the year and beyond, I don't know. But it's really interesting what's happened just the last month here.
Yeah. Yeah, and you watch where commodity prices have been. You knocked about 50 cents off the price of corn in the last 2 weeks. So that's
Right.
the reason about a quarter of that back. But you know, yeah, every week there's a new tariff announcement or this, that, other thing, and you see that slide, and
Yeah.
I just these first 3 to 6 months of this year, which we're in the third month now, but as you're watching how these things roll, you're going to see some of this kind of stuff happen, and as these things start to pan out, and more people get together on what this trade might look like, things will start leveling out a little bit. But it's going to be it's going to be it's going to be it's
It's always interesting.
it's
Yep.
just interesting,
I always used to figure, Casey, this was kind of before online bidding really got rolling, but our data over the years, again, going back 3.5 decades, it always used to look to me like up through about St. Patrick's Day that the auction pricing would kind of be strong. And then it used to be on particularly Saturdays, mid-March to the second part of March, so many areas would have their regional consignment sale, and you get all this equipment jammed together. And the online bidding wasn't what it is now, and the pricing would start to slide. And you're getting close to, at least in the upper Midwest where I am, we're getting time to put the planter in the ground, and the pricing would kind of fall off and then kind of stay stagnant until we got far enough in the season where guys would go, oh, this year is pretty good, or this year sucks, whatever, directionally. And now, I mean, everything moves faster now.
Yeah.
So you get these little jumps like this, or conversely, when things pull back, they happen fast. So,
Yeah.
And if you're working on a deal with your dealer, I mean, gosh, you really need to be aware. And I know you sat in the dealer chair, and you were plugged in as anybody I've ever met to movement in used values and trends. So it's interesting to track this stuff. One thing, a little anecdotal note, today we're hanging out with Sullivan Auctioneers, and they're really got some growth stuff going on. They're adding to their team and bringing some great players in. So Alan Henslin from up my way in Minnesota, Bird Island, Minnesota, Alan and his dad, LaDon Henslin Auction, of course. Now they're cranking away with Sullivan Auctioneers. But I was talking to Alan about a land sale up near where I grew up, West Central Minnesota, that sold last week. And, Alan said, I think about 14.5 per acre. And I said, Alan, you're plugged in. What did you think it was going to bring? And he was like, 11, 12, but again, 14.5. So that, I think there's some still strong balance sheets out there. We see it with land. And when the right equipment shows up, again, like that sale in Eubank, Kentucky last Thursday, or Hart, Michigan on Saturday, the right stuff, it brings money.
Yep. And I think that's you hit on something there that I think is the truth in anything right now, and in the world that we live in, is that the amount of information that's out there that you can go out and track now and see. And like we were talking about before we started recording, I remember going to auction with my grandpa, and the little local auction, the estate sale where they're selling the furniture and this, that, and this thing, and there might be a little tractor in there or something like that, but that was, you had a couple hundred people there, and that was a banger. You know what I mean?
Right.
That was everybody, and we're talking like 30 miles away was the entire world. 30-mile radius of that place.
Right.
That's the earth, the sun rose and set in 30 miles, and that
Hey.
was kind of how it worked.
And where did you grow up, Casey? What town again? I can't remember.
El Dorado, Kansas. Yep.
El Dorado. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're El Dorado boy, Benson, Minnesota boy. And I hear what you say. The world was like within 40 miles.
Yeah.
So those sale bills around town in the cafe, I mean, that was your audience.
Yeah.
And, hard for the young kids to remember, but there used to only be 5 channels or 4 channels on a TV.
Yeah.
I mean, I was at high school when cable came out, and, your world started to slowly get bigger. Of course, cell phones came along, and
Right.
it's interesting. So on the dealer side, it's kind of fascinating. Now, you were right in the eye of the storm back in the last downturn back, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. And you compare that to now with that information flow you just brought up.
Yeah.
I mean, we try and help our dealers with machinerypete.com, the back end analytics. So we were talking sprayers. I mean, now you can look and not only see the auction pricing, oh, it's going up. You can actually see the search traffic.
Yep.
And you go, oh, now I see why the auction price is going up, because more farmers they're looking. So
Yep.
there's a lot out there, but the key, don't you think? I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you got to find the right data
Right.
that you trust, and then it's like a baseline.
Yeah.
And then when you see stuff moving, then you kind of get a sense, okay, things are shifting.
Yeah. I was always a big fan of I need 3 data points that say the same thing for me to trust it. And because I got burnt too many times with the first thing I saw, and then that fits my narrative.
I don't believe you ever got burnt on anything, man. You're too sharp.
I got burnt plenty of times, but it was I'd always look at I try to find 3 different things that showed from 3 different independent places that showed, hey, this was where is that? And back when I first started doing it, that was kind of tough. It wasn't necessarily as easy as it could be. But today, man, you can pull up auction data from 25 different sales that happened in the last 90 days and look at the same, relatively close to the same equipment and get that feel. And then you go back and look at what you sold yours for out of your dealership, through your business system, and then what's the retail market looking like, and how are those things pairing together. And yeah, there's just so much.
By the way, we do hope that folks tend to make their first stop for auction pricing at machinerypete.com.
Yeah,
but
of course
it's a completely different world out there, and it's I'm sure your audience, farmers, that what they have to deal with in terms of data and the decisions. And again, we talked about it today at our roundtable. I don't think farmers in agriculture gets enough credit for leaning into these data tools and technology shifts and completely changing the way you farm. And same with dealers. I mean, changing the way you do things, taking it away from a gut level business to, really being plugged into what does the data tell us, whether that's sprayers, combines.
It's like on the land side of stuff, you look at the stuff that's there, the amount of maps that you look at. If you want to go buy a piece of land, how many maps you can look at to show soil maps, yield maps, fertilization maps, what those look like and how that relates back to yield and where you're at. And just all that different stuff, that you can look at and play into. And
I think it was funny when we were having the roundtable today, and folks, you're going to enjoy this discussion when Casey gets it out. It just was fantastic. But again, we talked a little bit about land values, and I found it interesting, because Dan Sullivan there will kind of chant the sale, but they were commenting on the raw number of people that log into these land auctions. Now, and of course, not everyone has the checkbook out who's going to buy it, but I think people are clamoring because they know, like, okay, this piece of ground, like you said, they can look at those maps, they know what it is, and they have in their head, like, okay, I think like I talked to Alan Helton, I think 11,000, and then when they see it go for 14, right or wrong, that tells you something in that area, how people are feeling. And then you can work that backwards into your operation and your planning, whether it's your used equipment plans or land plans or whatever. So there is a lot more information that is just free flowing out there now.
Yeah. So this big iron thing that we did today, it's going to probably put it out over the next 3 episodes to kind of really make everything flow together. But one thing we wanted to highlight while we were there is their big consignment sale they have coming up on the 18th, right? Tuesday the
18th, yes. Yep.
And that'll be and we're going to see some clips here in a little while, but there's no lack of equipment on their yard. There's plenty of stuff there.
Yeah, it was fun. After we finished our taping for the podcast, I went out on the lot with Dan Sullivan and Mark Stock with Big Iron, and we just kind of walking, shooting the breeze. And one thing that Dan said it was interesting was high percentage of this equipment is from farmers. So even again versus last year in 24, it was such a heavy flow of dealer equipment onto auctions all over the country, and they had quite a row of combines. And then we walked up, of course, the old front row of Sullivan's lot there, the tractor lot, and I was commenting, Dan, I was like, oh, there's a lot of good memories here from auctions covering for you guys. But some really good equipment selling on I think Tuesday, March 18th, SullivanAuctioneers.com. So folks, if you're looking for kind of a late spring buy, that's a good opportunity coming up there.
Right on. Well, looking forward to it, Greg. It's going to be a good episode. You got a new place you can go find all the fun stuff that is Farm Journal and Machinery Pete TV and whatnot. And that's Farm Journal TV. You can go get there's a new app out there you can go find. If you got Roku or Apple TV or whatever, smart TV or something like that, you can download that app, and it has all of Farm Journal's content on there, so you can find the video version of the Moving Iron podcast as well as Machinery Pete TV. and all the stuff that is out there with U.S. Farm Report and Ag Day and chip floor stuff and all those things that are out there. There's a lot of good content there.
Folks, come hang out with me and Casey there, and our friends Tyan and Clinton, and
Yep.
it's pretty cool what Farm Journal's put together there. So check it out.
Very cool. All right, Greg, it's a good place to stop there. So stay tuned for more Moving Iron podcasts coming up as we discuss what's going on over with Big Iron and Sullivan Auctions.
Well, there they are, mocking you.
See you next year, loser.
That weedy area that's got you thinking, man, I hate that spot. Wish I'd sprayed better. Get the last laugh with a sprayer upgrade from John Deere. Precision upgrades that can increase your sprayer's performance, like ExactApply, advanced nozzles to give you more control at more speeds. It's just one of the many precision upgrades you'll find at johndeere.com. Now, let's see who's laughing.
Hello, and welcome back to Moving Iron Podcast. Markets. I got Chip Mellinger from Blue Reef Ag Marketing back on here to talk about what's happening in the marketplace. Chip, how you doing this morning?
Hey, good. How you doing, Casey?
Doing okay, man. Well, we saw a 50-cent runoff here on corn over the last couple of weeks due to tariffs talks. What we see it's bounced back here about a quarter or so, back up in that 470 range. You look at that front month contract. A little pressure today because we announced some more tariffs with the EU. So we're playing the tariff game again, just like we saw about 6 or 8 years ago when all this stuff started to come out. I guess, Chip, I mean, obviously this is not a big surprise. Trump's doing everything he said he was going to do. But as you look at this, it feels like we're, like you've talked about in the past, we're one tweet away or X away or whatever you call it today, from having something crazy happen and one way or the other. And it feels like we're in that slopping back and forth range.
Yeah, for sure. We've seen that about 4 or 5 times in the last 3 or 4 weeks in here. So we're back to that cycle of news flow. One tweet, one news item can really move this market one way or the other. Unfortunately, the last few weeks it's been lower with the announcement of these tariffs, and they're on again, they're off again. I think to me the take home is the starting point of some negotiations to get some fair trade for us. Hopefully that can mean eventually that we get some sort of a trade deal, right? In the short run, it's negative to the market, but I kind of take a different approach and say, hey, down the road here, could this actually be good for ag? Could we get some trade agreements that actually solidify our standing in the ag space and maybe open some new markets up and get some extra demand out of this? Arguably in beans, South America's got a big crop, but corn right now, we're the only game in town in the world, essentially. And so this thing could be good down the road. But to your point today, tariffs on the EU, we still have a lot of uncertainty with the Canadian and Mexican tariffs, and we haven't even really begun to debate the Chinese tariffs. So every tweet that comes out seems to be on the negative side, and all of a sudden you snap your fingers and corn's 8 or 9 lower in here.
Yep. So some reports came out of China. Some statements came out of China that basically said we're ready for any kind of war you want to have, and I enjoyed that rhetoric there. That made me feel good on the inside when I saw that come through.
For sure.
But you had as you watch that happen, and so they put a big tariff on soybeans and those kind of things, and we've talked about this. You talked about it at the U.S. Farm Report recording at Commodity Classic that hey, China's got a huge bean crop coming, so it's not like they were going to buy soybeans from the U.S. anyway, right? Obviously, that's going to play effect.
Exactly.
As you look at that, what are your thoughts on soybeans right now?
Yeah, I think that in the big picture here, the Ag Outlook Forum here last month in February maybe set the stage for the most bearish scenario. Meaning I think that at the end of the day, the 52.5 bushel level as far as the yields go, we've never really done that, and so that's a high bar to hit. Obviously, we're going to plant fewer acres of beans. And so if there's any weather scare down the road here, if we plant 3 or 4 million less bean acres and we get threatened with a sub 50 bushel bean crop nationally, it keeps things pretty tight. Yes, we're going to lose some export business. We already have to Brazil and South America. China doesn't need our beans right now because they've got a fresh availability out of, the newly harvested crop in Brazil. And so, I think, though, that's not brand new, fresh news. We've known that for months and months and months. We knew even before the election that Trump had a chance of winning. If he won, there's going to be almost immediate tariffs against China. There was. We knew that there was a chance for a big crop in Brazil. There is. And so this market looks ahead. It's a futures market. And I think maybe, just maybe, there's a chance we've digested the most bearish news in here. Doesn't mean we're going to immediately rally here. I'm not trying to say that. Obviously, we're seeing some weakness here, led by beans. Really, beans are the weakest link in the grain market right now, it seems like. But I'm hopeful that going forward, we're going to have some opportunities. And, again, I just keep going back that right now the news flow is negative because of the tariffs. But the other side of this could be friendly. And it's a world market. Right now, China doesn't need our beans. They're buying them from Brazil. And, again, we've said this for a long time, and I know I've been pretty vocal on your podcast too, Casey, for several years. China is our enemy. They don't see us as as their friend. They've been positioning for the long game for 20 or 30 years. And I think some of the statements that Trump has made, whether that's, wanting Canada as a 51st state, wanting Greenland, wanting the Panama Canal, the sole purpose of that is to position against China encroaching on our interests. And they've been doing it for 30 years, pretty much untapped or even aided by different administrations. So it's a different, new sheriff in town, so to speak. The tariff thing in the short run is, obviously negative, but I do think we're going a long way towards getting the worst of that digested in the market in here.
Yep, for sure. All right, so let's talk a little bit about where you see things moving along on, got the crop report coming up, prospective crop planting report coming up. Obviously, corn's going to win out on a lot of acres there. Where do you think, as you look at this, where do you think the biggest cuts are going to come from? I've talked to some guys down in the Southeast that are talking, hundreds of thousands of acres of cotton not getting planted and going to corn. So I guess as you're looking at this mix, where do you see things happening? And this is one of those reports that's kind of a pie in the sky type of deal. And it's usually different when after they go back and check it again. But as you're watching this thing take place, how do you think the market's going to react, and what are you expecting out of this report?
Yeah, again, I think we got a little help with the Ag Outlook Forum in February. They were about 3 million more, a little more than 3 million more corn acres, about 3 million less bean acres. So that's a good line in the sand. I think the market even thinks that, maybe we could be up towards 4.5, 5 million more corn acres and maybe close to 4 million less bean acres. To your point, I think a lot of that's going to come out of the South. Both beans and cotton. I think what we've picked up across the heart of the Corn Belt is even farmers in the I states are making a shift away from beans to corn. Not massive amounts, but 5%, 7% here and there, and that adds up across the I states in the heart of the Corn Belt. So I do think maybe the market's going to not be surprised by 4.5 million more corn acres and, maybe towards 4 million less bean acres. Probably as important as the acreage report, we also get that stocks report on the 31st as well. And so, that sometimes is more important and carries more weight than what the acreage report says, and, sets the stage for spring planting. Obviously, we're getting some rain here in some of these drier areas, but we're still very, very dry. We had 1.5 inches plus of rain here about a week to 10 days ago locally. That was the heaviest rain we've had since August. And so it's gone, though. It's still very, very dry, and there's no water standing. And so we can take some more rain. We need some more rain. It's going to be very critical throughout the growing season, that especially into summer, that we continue to get ample rains, because there's not much of a subsoil moisture profile across wide swaths of the Corn Belt right now.
Right. So that was my next question I was going to talk to you about. You look at the drought map, and there's yellow to beige pretty much across the entire Corn Belt. You go all the way out to where the Panhandle, Nebraska, we're always 30 days away from a drought anyway. And wearing they're going to make a new color for us out there, I think. But they have right now we're red. So, but if you look across Nebraska, Iowa, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, everyone's got some drought issues. Looking at that map, things get planted. We start looking through. How long till we start seeing that weather marker kick in around this drought map?
Yeah, I could argue that the fund links in corn is maybe already playing that a little bit. We've had the funds, build up almost a close to a 400,000 net long position with this tariff news and the big break in prices here a week or two ago. They paired some of that, about 100,000 contracts of that back. But long answer is, I think pretty quickly. I think once we get the crop planted, then it becomes a full-fledged, weather watch in here. And so it's pretty well publicized that, kind of portions of Illinois and West are very, very dry right now. And so I think the market knows the importance of rainfall, particularly, pollination and grain fill, as well as temperatures, right? Temperatures are the other half of the equation to that. If it's dry and hot, we've got some serious problems if that persists into July and August for the corn crop. And so I think pretty immediately after planting, the market gets focused on, all right, where's the rain? How far behind are we or ahead? What's that look like in the 2-week forecast? I think we're going to be trading weather sooner than we do normally, and arguably, may already be trading some of that. So, again, I think going back to that Ag Outlook Forum, the other thing that is maybe helpful to us or positioned the market is that they plugged in 181 bushel corn yield nationally and a 52.5 on beans. We've never done that on corn. This past year, I think it was 179. So that's a tall order to hit that number. Could very, very easily, with some dryness in the Western Corn Belt this summer, see that in the mid to low 170s. That wouldn't even be a disastrous crop. Remember back in 2012, we had like 127 or roughly thereabouts national average corn yield. So 170, 172 wouldn't be a disaster, but it would really keep that carryout very, very tight given where demand is. So it's going to be pretty touch and go all summer long, which, think about the tweets and the volatility we're having with, this tariff situation. Wait till we get in and, the forecast changes 5-6 times a week. It's going to rain. It's not going to rain. That's going to drive tremendous volatility this summer, most likely.
Yeah. It's what's the old saying? It's a powder keg out there. Just need a spark.
Yes, it's a powder keg. Just waiting for a match to light it. That's exactly right.
That's right. Well, Chip, appreciate you being on the podcast. If folks want to reach out to you, get more information about Blue Reef Agri-Marketing, what you guys are doing there, what's the easiest way to do that?
Yeah, easiest way is just give us a call at our main Morton office. It's 309-550-7213. Love to chat with you. It's probably very important to get some sort of a plan of attack on these markets going into spring, and it's going to get very busy. And it seems like when farmers are the busiest is when they oftentimes miss opportunities in the markets.
Yep. Well, Chip, appreciate you being on. We'll catch you again next time.
All right. Thanks for having me, Casey.
All right. Stay tuned to the Moving Iron Podcast. We'll be back after this quick break.
Well, there they are, mocking you.
See you next year, loser.
That weedy area that's got you thinking, man, I hate that spot. Wish I'd sprayed better. Get the last laugh with a sprayer upgrade from John Deere. Precision upgrades that can increase your sprayer's performance, like ExactApply, advanced nozzles to give you more control at more speeds. It's just one of the many precision upgrades you'll find at johndeere.com. Now, let's see who's laughing.
Hello, man. Welcome back to the Moving Iron Podcast. I am Greg Peterson and I are here at the Sullivan office site in Hamilton, Illinois. We're going to talk to the Big Iron folks about what they see coming. And we actually had a pretty good opportunity, Greg. You would be in the room with some I would consider some real bangers in the auction industry, guys that have been doing it for a long time. And you've covered the auction industry for a long time, so you're familiar with a lot of these folks. But I guess talk a little bit about what you see happening in the auction market right now.
Well, early 25 year, it's interesting time, Casey. I mean, I think what we're seeing is kind of a split on the auction pricing based on a couple things. I mean, condition of the equipment, of course, is important, but, coming off a period when, there was such a shortage of good used equipment that, you know, folks, we were seeing high prices all over the place. And in 2024, things began to pivot a little bit. So now you're seeing some splitting on auction pricing and a lot of factors involved. So as I come down here to Hamilton, Illinois with our friends at Sullivan Auctioneers at Big Iron, like you said, we had fun last night sitting talking with the guys. And this is a form of content that I always wanted to do, Casey. We have a kind of a room here in Sullivan's great facility, and we've got some great experience in the auction and equipment industry here. We're going to have a fun conversation today.
For sure. I would agree. Well, before we get started into that conversation, let's just go around the table real quick. Everybody introduce themselves. Tim, to start with you.
Sure. Tim Meyer. I'm from Wayland, Iowa. Been in the auction business for over 30 years, and I enjoy the real estate end of it, the equipment end of it. I've definitely been involved in the transportation end of it and also the construction end. So not too many ends of the auction industry that I haven't done.
Right on. Dan?
Yeah. Dan Sullivan, been in the auction business since 1979. Was at our very first auction we held on Saturday, October 13th. And I just, I light up when they talk about auctions. I like all aspects of it. I kind of echo what Tim said, everything from A to Z. And it's great to have a good support team around me to make us look good.
My name is Mark Stock, and I live by St. Edward, Nebraska. Been in the auction business since 1984, so just coming out of our 40 years in this space. Started like most of the people I do, I think, with some household auctions, and then you work your way up into some farm machinery, and then if you're fortunate enough to pass the real estate exam, you can start selling real estate. So happy to be joining you guys.
Alan Henslin from Bird Island, Minnesota, second generation out of Deer. My mother and father started the business in 1981, and I've been selling farmland and farm equipment, and been selling for 27 years in the auction profession. So enjoy every minute of it.
My name is Jeff Huff. I reside in Mount Pleasant, Iowa. Went to auction school in 1983, so north for 40 years of experience. I'm a licensed real estate broker in 2 states, licensed auctioneer in 5 states, mainly focused now, but just like everybody else, started out with household goods, antique auctions, went all the way from obviously some really outstanding real estate and farm equipment auctions, also sold cattle as well. So it's been a great ride, and looking forward to that next 10 or 15 years.
Nate Larson. I live on a small farm outside Mediapolis, Iowa. 15 years in the auction business, had a prior career in banking, and I've been mainly involved in real estate and the auction part of my career, although I've sold quite a bit of equipment. The main focus of my book of business has been working with banks and troubled debts.
Yeah, I think top of mind for me guys, and I appreciate everyone getting together here, is a lot of folks have been seeing a lot of information out online, social media. It's really kind of big moves here for Big Iron Sullivan Auctioneers. And Dan, we can start with you here, but recently we see Alan, the Facebook post welcoming Alan Ladon, and of course Tim here, all his experience, Jim Huff. It's a lot going on with Sullivan Auctioneers and Big Iron.
Yeah, there really is, Greg, and it's really awesome to be sitting around a table with some of the legends in the auction business, and to have us all on one team. When there's buyouts and mergers, or no matter what company it is, there's always going to be some trying times, and it's not always easy. And it takes a lot of work through it, and sometimes it's a little harder to work through than what you really thought when it started. But the main thing is that's all, water under the bridge, and now we're moving forward with a team that I never would have dreamed we would have. And so everybody's on the same page. We're all sitting here now, and it just feels almost like day one. I mentioned I've about done this. I'm one of 11 children, done it for since 1979, and I never did look at it as work, because it's just something that we all like to do. And in the sport team that I had around me, it wasn't just, sometimes you get a company and you kind of have a face of a company, but it takes a lot more than just the face of the company. So
So now the Sullivan Big Iron, we planted back, was it 3 years ago, guys? So,
Right. It could be soon be 3 years.
and I've known Mark and Dan, I've known both you guys for all my 35 years covering the space, and appreciate all your help on both sides of the business, and see you guys come together. And yeah, sometimes these deals, these mergers, it take time to kind of, feel your way forward. But Dan and Mark, I sense excitement, going forward here, and seeing familiar faces like Alan and Jim and Tim and Nate here. And visiting with you guys last night, that optimism, that excitement going forward, it was really coming through. It's fun to hear.
Yeah, it was. Mark, you take over.
Yeah, it's exciting to be with a lot of people that have been involved for such a long time in bringing their expertise into the organization. We've got a big, broad sales force all across the Midwest, and they all work hard for the customers, and everybody in this room wants to work hard for a customer. We want to provide that exceptional service that not only the sellers, but the buyers also are expecting. So the team does an outstanding job of explaining the process to all the sellers. And then the team also does an outstanding job of providing the information that the buyer wants to be more confident about the items that they're looking at, whether it's land or whether it's machinery. A confident bidder spends more money.
Right.
And that's what we try to do here, not only with the 6 people in this room, which is a small representation of the entire sales force, but we echo that all across the Midwest and all the states that we cover.
Would it be fair to say, guys, is looking forward now? Again, Mark, on the Big Iron side, you have the weekly, the Wednesday, so huge. And what you guys have built up together, I believe it's up like 700,000 bidders. That's your audience, humongous audience. But also increasing, I've been seeing more like farmer retirement sales kind of split out on the roll. Can you guys, Dan and Mark, talk to that about how you're addressing both ends of the needs of the sellers there?
Well, we leave that up to our sellers. Obviously, we're going to give them some great advice, and then leave that up. If they want to put their sale on a Wednesday, which is what Big Iron has historically been known for, or if they want to do it on a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, which is what the Sullivans do. They've been doing sales every day of the week. They can pick that as well. We had so many bidders and buyers now that are constantly looking at our website. It doesn't matter what day of the week they sell, because of the massive amounts of people that are watching Big Iron and Sullivan. So that's one of the reasons why we got together 3 years ago, because the huge attraction that both companies brought to the environment, the seller was going to get good results.
So Dan, I know it was last Thursday, you been in Kentucky, you guys had I think that was a File Farm. So yeah. You set the record, as you guys both often do, but it was a 24-mile Fendt. Casey, we've talked about it.
Yeah.
930H sprayer, $500,000, $250. But having an online event for the individual, again, having the option if they want to hop in the big Wednesday sale with all the eyeballs, maybe, a few pieces for sale. But then, again, what you guys do for Joe Farmer and their retirement sale, kind of right into your wheelhouse.
Yeah, that's right, Greg. When you get a sale of that caliber and that size of sale, often it's nice to just kind of stand alone. If a farmer has a small line or maybe just a few pieces, that Wednesday sale, fits perfectly. But yeah, the farmer retirement sale, and we do appreciate all that Machine Repeat does, Greg. You've just put everybody at another level. They go to that and follow what you do, and you always personalize things. You know, I talked about that, Greg, for a long time. But yeah, that sale, and when you look at the results and where the items went to in the different countries and the amount of registered bidders, it's pretty.
Yeah, I saw your list. It was amazing. You had buyers from Canada and Mexico, and was it 42 or 47 states or something?
I couldn't believe it when I like Mark said, the team that we have around that do behind the scenes work and gather that information. I didn't really realize it till I saw it online on our Facebook, and my brother Joe sent a message out to my brother John, my brother Bill, and my brother Jim, and said, this is really, really impressive. So that was quite the deal, and it's fun to look back and see, how many people, how many eyes, like Mark said, that we put this equipment in front of. And when you get to these other gentlemen in this room, they'll have similar stories, but it's amazing out there. Yeah, going back to maybe original question, Greg, I think that So sometimes, even if a farmer maybe has a small line, but they want it to kind of be their own, and they can have their own calendar image. You click on and see what that individual has. So we just have the whatever that person wants. We're able to kind of fit their needs, and our reps work through that too.
Right. So now here we are, 3 years down the road from the merger or the get together of Big Iron and Sullivan, and really both companies smashing forward full speed. Sullivan Auctioneers and Big Iron both doing your thing. Separate put together, would be accurate to say? Kind of?
That would be accurate. I mean, we all have our area that we excel in. The Big Iron footprint is, Nebraska, Kansas, Colorado, South Dakota. That's where our fourth big footprint is. And then, of course, with the Sullivan Group, that's why we got together. They were Illinois, Indiana, Missouri, and then, of course, Alan Henson with the Minnesota connection, and North Dakota, and then Wisconsin up there. And then these guys come in from Iowa. Holy moly! Now we got the big circle amongst the Midwest, where the breadbasket of American agriculture and construction. We still do some of that. We still do the fleet vehicles. We still have a great following for those. But there's enormous quality of representation from the people that are representing the Sullivan and the Big Iron and the Henslin brands going forward.
Yeah, I think one of the things that the cool thing about you guys coming together like this was, as from a dealer perspective, when I worked in the dealership, there were niches that Big Iron served, and there were niches that Sullivan served. And I use both of you extensively, right? And I think the cool thing about you guys coming together is that you're both very trusted in the industry, right? Everyone trusts that you're going to get a good product when you use both of you. So now you guys come together. Talk a little bit about some of the feedback you're getting from your customers that's your bidders, right? About that, what they see now, and how much more they feel maybe there's even a bigger niche for them now, or a bigger play for them now to work with you guys.
Well, from a buyer perspective, it's a one-stop shop, right, because of the massive amount of machinery that's selling on a regular basis. And because they know the quality of the descriptions and the way the equipment is represented, that's why they just go there. They've gone to other sites and maybe got a little burned because, oh my gosh, they didn't take the picture or write down the thing that was bad or incorrect. And that leaves a bad taste in their mouth. But the customers come back to us time and time again because of that end result. The machine is actually better than they anticipated it to be once they see it or lay eyes on it for the first time. Remember, most of the equipment that sells is traveling over 400 miles with over 120,000 items sold in the last 13 months. The average distance from the point of location where it was at to where it ended up averaged 405 miles. So people just don't go out and look at everything anymore, but they are trusting the work that all of the reps do out all across the country, putting a good product together for those bidders and buyers.
Yeah, and I think that's so I remember when I first started working this business in 2006, and there's still stock auction at the time, and we talked about Lee a lot yesterday. I come in and talking to me, and when you started pitching this idea of doing only online auctions, I'm like, that's the butcher daisiest thing I ever heard in my life. Like, why would you just buy something? I'm not going to buy something from Walmart because I haven't seen it online, but and you're expecting me to bid heavily on a used piece of equipment that I don't know anything about. And look how that's changed now, where at the level of live auctions that are out there are now the norm, or sorry, not part of the norm anymore. The live auction, the internet auctions are where they're at. From the sales team perspective, when you guys are out talking to customers, what's some of the feedback you're getting about the shift from primarily live auctions to primarily online auctions post-COVID? That's what we see now. What's some of the feedback you guys are getting? And then what is some of the feedback you're getting about what you see with Big Iron Sullivan's coming together?
I'll say something, then I'll turn it over to Adam. One quick thing, and I know that's probably somebody else's turn, but I think that the online auctions for equipment, I'm talking equipment, we of course sell a lot of land, and that's through a virtual live. But on the online auctions, when it starts, whether it's 9 o'clock Central or 9 o'clock Eastern or Mountain Time or whatever, and when that next item's going to come up to the next one. If it's a live auction, and maybe there's a storm comes through, or people, I think the amount of registered bidders, and going back to what Mark said, the amount of pictures and the videos, and you really can see that item, right? View it better than you can if you were standing next to it, because you're not going to look underneath it. You're not going to crawl all over. So you're getting more pictures. You also, a potential buyer out there that's going to be bidding on that item, they are going to register more on it online than a live in it online, because they figure, that auctioneer's up there and there's John Doe standing there in the ring, and, they're probably going to kind of favor, somebody standing right there in front of the auction truck or something. I think it brings more bidders to the table. Everybody's sitting at the same table, all playing with the same fair set of rules. And it just, I'm totally convinced. I'm all like you, Casey Seymour. At the beginning you think, oh my gosh, no way. But it's kind of like my son, Michael Patrick Sullivan, said this morning. He said, Dad, it's easy to sell something if you believe in it. And I just don't think there's any doubt that I say we with the small group here, but our team, you get more money than anybody else we get for stuff. And I firmly believe that, not being arrogant, just I'm confident that we can. But go ahead, Alan.
Yeah, I was just going to say, turn back the clock 5-6 years ago, we started to see the auction attendance at live sales started to drop off. We started to see the bidder base, the people that were online started to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So we started to see that trend, and then COVID came in and really shifted the market, and it provided a lot of opportunities for the ones in the industry that were willing to change, especially for the virtual land auctions. And it just was an easy transition. And now to go back, every now and again, we'll get somebody that will ask about doing a live auction, but we just tell them, we feel you're going to have better results going forward with all the pictures that are taken. If we've got a combine for sale or a 4-wheel drive for sale, it isn't 20 or 30 pictures. It's 60, 70, 80, sometimes over 100 pictures of that item plus a video. So it puts everybody on a even playing field. And we just sold a 4-wheel drive tractor, New Holland 4-wheel drive tractor, Western Minnesota. Buyer was from Iowa, came up and said to the seller when he picked it up, this is better than I thought. And I knew it was going to be a good piece of equipment from the video and from all the pictures that I took. So I think it's just representative it with confidence. The buyers have confidence when they bid and buy. And I know if I were to have a sale today, it'd be an online only auction, especially with the bidder base that we have, 700,000 plus and growing every single day. It's just a no-brainer for a seller, and it gives these buyers a lot of confidence.
I got a real quick story, and then I'll yield to Jim Huff. But I was sitting in the airport 7-8 years ago, and the plane was delayed because it was a blizzard on a Wednesday. Mm-hmm. And my chief technology officer called me, and he says, Mark, are you watching the sale? I said, yeah. He says, well, we just hit 106,000 people, different computers right now that are watching the sale. It was a blizzard, right? That's the opposite. If you actually had a blizzard with an open outcry microphone in hand, there'd be nobody there. Mm-hmm. There was 106,000 people there. I said, well, that's great. Why are you calling me? He says, well, we just moved over to our 3rd server, and we don't have a 4th. So he was wondering if we were going to be able to handle the volume, which we did. Yeah. But what I heard and I saw, because he sent me the screenshots of all the analytics that are behind the screen, there was 106,000 people watching that auction in a blizzard. I knew right then and there that this was going to be the way of the future. Jim? Well, to reiterate what Alan said, and I'm going to spin it a little bit of a different way. I don't think, as Alan said, everybody's on the same level playing field, and obviously the results are for other sellers. But I think you have to take into account maybe the comfort of a buyer sitting in his office or at their house or whatever. I think that we've seen, whether it's a virtual land auction or a farm machinery auction, that these folks feel so comfortable. They're not intimidated by a live auction, that I think our results are better than because of that. And of course, I've been in front of a lot of people over the last few years, and the trend is, especially farm equipment auctions, that they would rather have a online sale. They don't want people tearing up their yard. So they're worried about those things, and they understand that, it's hard to get a lunch to come out there. It's just several factors. It's just beneficial, not only for the seller, but I think that it's very, very beneficial for the buyer as well.
And guys, on the topic of online auctions, this is a great discussion. And Dan, I remember, so we're right as we're recording this. What's the date today, Casey? It's like March 12th. Yeah. Okay, so it was actually 5 years ago. Yesterday was the day when everything shut down. Well, Danny called me up that date, and then you guys had already been moving heavily down the aisle path, but the whole auction industry was, what's going to happen? March is the busiest auction month of the season. But you called me and said, Greg, we're going online only. And I think you kind of, helped the industry shift that way, but you were a total believer in it. And within 9 days, March 20th, I wrote a blog because, we're working with 1,300 auction companies compiling this for all the prices, and the prices went up. There was nothing in March of 2020 in the egg industry to drive, price of corn and beans had gone up, but we all jumped over the Shark Tank together. We'd had online bidding forever, and Mark, you and Ron with Stock Auction, Big Iron, you guys, you paved the way before anybody. 2009 with going online because you saw the vision. But I just found fascinating that once everyone got over that hurdle of online only, it was like, wow, the prices were there. And so it's been fascinating. You guys, leaders in the industry, doing that. And just wondering what you guys see going forward from here. Now it's March of 25 or 5 years down the road. What excites you guys about serving your buyers and sellers in this online format, land or machine?
Before Tim or Nate take over, going back to those 5 years ago.
That was a scary time.
Pardon me?
That was a scary time.
Oh, it sure was. But, we were moving in that direction. I say we, my nephews, Luke and Matt Sullivan. And I can brag on them, I guess, because I think if he's the lead, something you can brag, even if it's your own family. But there's no two young men that's any sharper in the ag world than those two boys, young men, and they were moving in that direction. When COVID hit, it just accelerated it and moved it. But if COVID never had it hit, we'd be doing what we're doing today. We would be doing online auctions because we were having meetings in this same room prior to COVID, and we were ready to move it. And again, that just kind of accelerated. But go ahead, Tim.
I think that the online versus the live, if you really, folks say they miss the live sale, but I have started asking, well, why? Well, I really missed the environment, the socialism, the social aspect of it, and I understand that. I think we do too. We're Readful auctioneers here, so I tell folks that I'm kind of like a shoe cobbler. No one needs that anymore from an auctioneer standpoint. It's aren't many people that needs their shoes cobbled anymore. But I think going back to that aspect, it is unfortunate, the social aspect, but there is no way we could get that amount of people into somebody's yard on a live sale. And if you go back 5 to 10 years ago, we weren't moving equipment 400 miles. It was staying very, very close. So the online portion of it is bringing a professionalism to the market that we just didn't have. And I think it's a great addition, and we're just going to continue heading that direction as we move forward. And it's really, really exciting. But being a seller, who do you want to deal with? Well, you want to deal with somebody that's got the biggest footprint that can get out to the furthest people, because guess what? If the average piece is going 400 miles away, some of that stuff is going way, way further than that. And so, wow, who's got the horsepower to put behind your stuff to do the best thing for you? And that is the neatest thing about what's going on around here. Everybody is so focused on the seller and what the seller's best interests are. And I believe moving forward, it's the company that's got the biggest foot.
See, Tim, there I can sense that excitement about, joining forces here with Dan and Mark. And Nate, can you pick up on that?
Yeah, just in talking about, to add on here, you think about agriculture and farm families that have been quick to embrace technology throughout time. I mean, they think back over 100 years. And I think that they always recognize results. And so as we began to shift into the online area, I think they began to see that that technology was something that they were wanting to adopt that. And I think sellers now understand it lends a lot of consistency to the prices to do an online sale rather than a live sale. Now, I get the aspect, sometimes people want to go to a live sale and the land deal, a live auctioneer Chan, I think that has its place. But I think farmers and farm families are no different than all times in history. They embrace the technology of online auctions. They understand the results they're going to get from doing an online sale of 106,000 people. You don't get 106,000 people in a football stadium. And so to have that and have the comfort of knowing, boy, we're going to achieve some consistent results because of the setup of what Sullivan's and Big Iron brought together.
You hit on something, Nate, there that I've been trying to share for years. I don't think the ag audience of farmers get enough credit for leaning into change, technology.
They're leaders.
They leader, absolutely.
Otherwise, you'd still be stuck with a 4-row planter or a check wire planter. You got a little 1-row check wire. But it's all easy. You can farm a check wire.
It's all built around what can make me better, right? And so you guys have leaned into that part. I remember being at an auction. I was filming YouTube. I had just started. I went to one of your auctions in Kansas, and you would start a Big Iron Shrew. Before that, and I was standing, or your brother Ron was standing on a Batwing mower when he saw me there filming. And I was like, Ron, I got to talk to you guys about Big Iron afterwards. And you guys you saw what was coming before everyone else. But maybe we should talk about just the next couple of days, what you got to do.
Yeah. Let's do that. The machinery yard in Hamilton is full of machinery.
It is.
There's a lot of good quality irons, several retirement sales that are taking place here on Tuesday of next week. And, look it all over on the website, and the gates are always open here at the Sure pull it over and dry it. Now, for those that people like to touch it, feel it, and rub it, to go for it. And so you're bent it.
And a construction focus sale coming up. It's like
that's coming up. It's going to be a really large auction. But the majority of the construction equipment is located at Huntington, Indiana, and yards over there. And there's pieces that are here scattered around. But that when they started out, they had a little bit of construction, and it's huge. Again, those videos are online.
Well, there they are, mocking you.
See you next year, loser.
That weedy area that's got you thinking, man, I hate that spot. Wish I'd sprayed better. Get the last laugh with a sprayer upgrade from John Deere. Precision upgrades that can increase your sprayer's performance, like ExactApply, advanced nozzles to give you more control at more speeds. It's just one of the many precision upgrades you'll find at johndeere.com. Now, let's see who's...
All right, welcome back to the Moving Iron Podcast. We are at Commodity Classic 2025. I've been here this whole week, and I've got Kyle Berry and Clint Schaffer here with me to talk about precision upgrades here with John Deere. So, guys, this is one of my favorite topics to talk about, because I think this is the future of agriculture, especially on the equipment side when you look at stuff. And I think the biggest reason for me that I say that is you look at, we're sitting underneath the boom of a Hagie sprayer, and they're a brand new one of those is pretty pricey. And not everybody can get one of those, but the technology associated with that sprayer you can get, right? So I think that's the cool thing I like to talk about when you're looking at these upgrades. But before we get too far into that, Kyle, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and what you do for John Deere?
Yeah, my name's Kyle Berry. I'm the manager of Precision Upgrades Marketing. So myself and my team wake up every day thinking about how do we get more technology onto machines that customers already own. So I've got a team of folks that are spread throughout the U.S., working with our dealers and our customers every day around product compatibility and how do we get more technology on those machines. Like you said, it's not everybody has the means, especially in these times, to go out and buy new. And so having a full portfolio of products that allow us to meet the customer where they are, take the machines that are already in their sheds, upgrade them to the latest technology, whether it's planters, sprayers, combines, air seeding, you name it, tractors, you talk about autonomy, like that's where Precision Upgrades really fits with those customers, so it's really exciting.
Awesome. Clint?
Yeah, so Clint Schaffer, I'm the product marketing lead for Precision Upgrades, and similar to Kyle, the team and I, we wake up every day and we're thinking about how can we bring that latest technology and add value to that farmer's operation. And it's really fun to be able to see a lot of that latest tech that we usually associate with new pieces of equipment, being able to bring those into that planter that's sitting there in your machine shed, right? So how do we get that to that latest technology? And through Precision Upgrades, we have some great options there.
All right, let's jump over and talk about sprayers now. Okay. Sprayers is the second kind of emerging group where you're starting to see. You can pretty much, I think, make a sprayer, except the chassis, new again, right? The components are all there to do that. One of which, we talk about See & Spray a lot and what that looks like. And surprisingly, when you sit down and talk with somebody about, what See & Spray costs to do the upgrade kit, it blows their mind when you tell them what it is. It's not that expensive. It's significantly less than what most people think it is. Now, there's varying levels of See & Spray, right? You got Select, Premium, and Ultimate, and they're all different in their own way and what they do. But when you start going through the options that are associated with sprayers, you got solution systems, you got air boom purge systems, you got all these different systems that you can now go in and make new again. If I'm looking at this as a producer and I've got a 2018 ExactApply sprayer and I'm ready to start making some movements, either I'm in the market to buy a new one or, hey, I'm looking at doing something about just upgrading what I got. Walk through that process so you start looking at sprayer.
Yeah, so the instance you just mentioned is a customer that already has ExactApply. But I would tell you, like, the foundation for upgrading your sprayer is Nozzle Tech. So we've got two nozzle technology options. We've got Individual Nozzle Control Pro, or Ink Pro, as you'll hear us refer to it as. Then we have ExactApply. So the biggest difference between those two systems is Ink Pro is a 15 hertz pulsing system. ExactApply is a 30 hertz pulsing system. ExactApply gives you some more speed ranges than what you will get with Ink Pro, but they're both going to give you section control down to the individual nozzle. So depending on the nozzle spacing of your machine, we're going to take a machine that maybe you had no section control before, so we're going to take it from 90 or 100 or 120 feet down to 15 or 20 inches depending on spacing. And that alone gives customers a savings of 2 to 5% on their chemical inputs. So we start with talking about nozzle tech. So how do we get them into a nozzle technology? Because you can't go to See & Spray unless you're using some nozzle technology. Today it's ExactApply. So depending on the age of your sprayer, how much, what you're looking to spend, we have those two options, but both of them give you individual nozzle control. For the instance that you spoke about, you could talk to that customer about recirc and reclaim. Maybe that 2018 machine wouldn't have come with product recirc and reclaim from the factory. That didn't come until 22, but we can retrofit that back onto that existing machine. So now you have the ability to prime the boom system. You also have the ability to pull the product back into the tank when you're done spraying or you're going to switch products, and that can save a customer $600 a day. It's 30 gallons every time you, roughly 30 gallons every time you pull that product back into the tank. So that's one option. Then ultimately going up to See & Spray. So we can spend a ton of time talking about See & Spray, but there's three solutions. You mentioned them all: See & Spray Select, See & Spray Premium, and See & Spray Ultimate. We're really excited that because in model year 26, we're bringing See & Spray Select as an upgrade kit as well. So traditionally, we only talked about See & Spray Premium as an upgrade, but See & Spray Select will be joining the portfolio for model year 26. And then See & Spray Premium, we're adding 90 and 100-foot booms. So traditionally, or in the past year or two, we've only had 120-foot booms. We heard from customers, hey, I got 90-foot or 100-foot booms for whatever reason. There's smaller fields, different geographies, but they want the technology. And so bringing that back to 90 and 100-foot booms is, again, going to allow more people the ability to adopt the technology at a lower upfront price, especially than what they would traditionally think of. But the building blocks, it's really about starting with nozzle technology. And a lot of times you think, how is that really going to save me money? Well, you think about what's the cost of over applying or under applying. You're either doing crop damage or you're missing weeds, right, especially when we got really big sections. So getting those down to just the individual nozzle itself, and then making sure we're putting the right rate on. As these booms are 120 feet, you're making a turn in a corner, and the outside of that boom's moving at a really high rate of speed, and the inside of the boom might be going backwards. So those sections should be shutting off so that we're not over applying. And without an Ink Pro or an ExactApply, you don't have the ability to do that. And so it's efficacy and it's efficiency, and saving product means you're probably spending less time at the edge of the field tendering too.
Well, one of the neat things too, just building off of Individual Nozzle Control Pro, similar to our conversations around planters, there's a lot of times a farmer may look at that piece of equipment, and be like, it's too old to upgrade, or I don't know if it has enough value for me to upgrade, right? These are some of the decisions that a farmer starts thinking through. And what's really nice is we're going all the way back to, like what Kyle said, 2008 on a 30 series sprayer. There's a bunch of those old sprayers that are in great shape that farmers are going to be using for years to come, right? And having that ability to say, man, I can take this sprayer, I can make an investment into it, right? Get that Individual Nozzle Control Pro, and get that return over the next few years, right? As I start utilizing that product, and I think that's some of the decision making that a farmer has to think through, right? Is what's my sprayer worth? How much is the upgrade kit to put on it? How long am I going to end up running it, right? At that point in time. And so I always like to have somebody say, hey, if your sprayer had this technology, would you keep it longer? Right, and I think a lot of cases the answer is heck yeah, it would, right? So I think those are some of the important pieces as I start thinking about putting that upgrade kit into a sprayer that kind of has to come into play there.
Yep, that's the thing about a sprayer too. As I look at, as a guy with my used equipment background that I have in the dealerships, I look at this now as like this is an opportunity that you're going to see. The equipment churn on the farm is going to start getting wider, right? I mean, there comes a point in time when you're going to hit a point where, hey, this is no longer like you can't support, right? There's going to be times where you hit things where it's just operating system on this particular is not just, it's like my iPhone. After about 4 years, you can't update it anymore, type of thing, right? So as you're watching this thing roll through, I think the really, really cool thing about this is you're talking about this 2008 30 series sprayer. I can keep piling on the latest and greatest as needed. Right, as it fits my operation, right? Because there's some technology out there people just get for the cool factor, and there's some technology out there people get because it actually gives them an ROI, right? So this is one of those deals where I think you can start seeing that, like, it'd be cool to have it, but is the juice worth the squeeze, right?
And that's where we're gonna continue to work and focus on, creating more compatibility and things of that nature, right? With all of our different precision upgrade kits. But there is a certain time where that is a limitation, right? It's a limitation on electrical architecture, right? Can you even get it wired in, right? So there are certain upgrades that you'll end up seeing that, well, I can only take this sprayer so far, right? And I can't get it to the next level, right? So take See & Spray, right? We stop at 2018, right? And you have to have an 18 or newer John Deere sprayer, ExactApply, BoomTrack Pro 2, right? All of those different things in order to get it to that level. So there are still limitations, and that's where I'd always say work with your John Deere dealer, understand what options that you have for that sprayer, and start again. I know I probably sound like a broken record, right? But get help along that customer journey, right?
And understand where the customer wants to go, right? Like the dealer's going to help you understand. Like if your end goal is See & Spray, then if we're talking about nozzle technology, we got to make sure that we get you into ExactApply. Yeah. Because if we sell you Ink Pro and Ink Pro's not compatible with See & Spray today, now you kind of pigeonhole that customer into one spot, and the dealers are really going to help customers with that. And we talked about Hagies. We're working on getting some Hagie upgrades into the portfolio today. We don't have any, but we hear the ask from customers all the time, so we're working on it. From the factory, you can get See & Spray Premium and See & Spray Premium on STS 16s and STS 20s, but that's the only way you can get See & Spray.
I even had a conversation, I think you'll get a kick out of this. I had a conversation with a farmer friend of mine, and he was looking at getting a new used planter, right? New to him used planter, right? Or not planter, sprayer. And so I told him, I go, whatever you do, I'm like, if you're looking at and he's going for a John Deere, and he goes, I go, whatever you're looking at, make sure you get ExactApply on it, and make sure you get above 2018. And he goes, well, why is that, right? And I go, because that's a cutoff for See and Spray. And I'm like, I think your operation would benefit off of this. And so we had a pretty lengthy conversation. And sure enough, he ends up with a 2021 John Deere sprayer with ExactApply on it, right? Really getting ready. And now that we have the 100-foot options and things of that nature out there, we can really start looking at expanding into some of those sprayers. So it even starts getting you to start thinking about your used equipment purchases different. Like, is this piece of equipment upgradable into the future? Right, and I think that's an important aspect for farmers to think through.
And that, again, that's another conversation that your dealer can help you with, right? Like sometimes it can seem overwhelming with all the variables and compatibility things but our dealers, we're arming our dealers with more and more information every day to help customers make those decisions so that they can ultimately get their operation to where they're trying to go.
Yeah, I think that's the cool thing about the equipment space now. When you look at used equipment, is that used equipment's not just yesterday's technology, because that's what I can afford. You have an opportunity if you buy it right. You can really start looking at it, and it gives you that kind of that a la carte approach to how your technology is going to fit into your system, right? And get you ready for that especially as you start looking at, we'll just jump into this one now. As you start looking at autonomy and how that starts playing into what's going on, and the autonomy side of farming is. I've had a lot of conversations with guys about autonomy, and it's amazing how mixed the bag is.
Yep.
It's you think most guys would be like, I would thought, hey, everybody's going to want autonomy because everyone complains about labor, right? Well, here's your solution. Yeah. It's I don't know if I want autonomy on my farm. And the other guy is, can I get it tomorrow? You know what I mean? And it's such a mixed bag. You start looking at autonomy. Everything you guys rolled out here since. With the 9RX, the 9Rs, the new 9Rs, and 8Rs, and those kind of things, they're all autonomous ready. Everything's ready to go there. You just got to, when it's available, you just got to put the stuff together, right? Yep. And start looking at that. Talk me through how you think precision upgrades and autonomy work with each other.
Yeah, so it's funny that you say that because I think about when AutoTrac first came out, and the customers, everyone didn't run to adopt AutoTrac right away, right? No one thought that they had an issue steering their tractor through the field. They had markers on their planner and steering wasn't a problem. And now when AutoTrac doesn't work, most of the time they park it at the edge of the field and call the technician to get out there and work on it because it's like, I'm not going to drive, right? And so I feel like we're in a new iteration of where AutoTrac took the industry 20-something years ago, and now we talk about autonomy. So what's cool about autonomy is we're bringing that to the marketplace through precision upgrades. So customers with existing machines in the marketplace are going to be able to upgrade those machines with the perception system that you see on the two tractors here in the booth, as well as tillage tools, so that there's going to be some compatibility. It's a little bit complicated, so I don't want to water down what we're doing here with all of that, but it is going to be through upgrades. And so there's not going to be a factory installed version right off of the bat. So customers that are interested in autonomy are going to come through upgrades to upgrade the tractor, upgrade the tillage tool. There's going to be ordering process and all that the dealers will help work through, but we're really excited about what autonomy is going to unlock for those customers. And again, it's going to be a journey for some folks. Some are ready to adopt it 2 years ago, and some maybe are going to wait and see how it plays out in the field. But we know that labor continues to be a challenge for our customers, and how do we enable them to hit these tight windows of time and being able to run a tillage tractor in front of the planter or in front of or behind the combine, in the fall when they're having a hard time finding some seasonal help, is going to be a game changer for a lot of our customers.
I think the other thing too is, as we think about autonomy, you just think about your operating window, right? And I think about that for whether it's planting, harvest, spraying, any of these, right? We have a certain window that we got to hit to get this job done. On the tillage side, I always look at this and it's like you open up or unlock that ability for that tractor to run when you're sleeping, right? Like on the hours that you're not typically running, it's going to unlock that opportunity to get more productivity out of that piece of equipment and cover more acres in a day. And I think when people start experiencing that aspect of it, not just the hey, I don't want to be out there driving it or things of that nature. But man, this thing is literally going to, be covering more ground and being more efficient. I think you're really going to start seeing a mind shift on that, on really that acceptability of autonomy, because that's going to make a huge impact.
Yeah.
Just the ability. I mean, the machines still have cabs on them, so they're still going to use them. Right. It's not like we make it to where the only way it's going to run is with autonomy. So there's going to be times that you don't need it, and there's going to be times that you do, and the customer's going to get to pick. Right. What makes the most sense? What's happening day to day? The farmers can't plan for every single thing that's going to happen every day as they get through the season, and so how do we just put more tools at their fingertips to help them get more done in less time? Because it seems like the windows just keep shrinking, even though there's still 24 hours in the day. Some days it doesn't feel like it.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. I think about this. The one application that comes to my mind when I think about autonomy is the custom cutters out there that don't have green card guys. And how's that free them up, and are they able to go maybe pick up some acres that they maybe have had to pass on because of the labor issues that they're faced with. So there's just so many avenues to go down with that.
That's actually a great segue here, Casey, just on a new autonomy feature that came out here at Commodity Classic. So you've heard machine sync, right, where the combine operator can control the auger wagon, right? We actually now have a precision upgrade kit that can go back to, I believe it's 2020 S700 combines, and we can put a perception kit on there on that unloading auger, and it's actually looking at the auger wagon, and it will move that auger wagon automatically to fill it up. So as a combine operator, you don't have to take your eyes off the row, right? And that thing's going to be out there unloading, and it's going to be doing all of this automatically. So really cool as you start thinking about just even little features, right? A lot of times we think of autonomy and it's like we think of the whole thing, right? The whole thing has to be going. But even if we can take these little steps, and it's like we just made the whole unloading process autonomous, right? Yeah. Like that's incredible. That's a nice little step, right? As you start thinking about kind of getting into that. And I'm excited to continue to see where we take little things like that, right? And the harvest team, I mean, they got harvest automation settings that are changing automatically, the predictive ground speed automation, right? There's just a ton of cool things, and it's all building on those autonomy building blocks.
Right. Well, guys, I appreciate you taking the time, sit down with me and talk about this. I love talking about these kind of things. This is where I think the direction of equipment's headed. So appreciate you guys being on, and we'll catch you again next time.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again next week. And remember, Moving Iron is available on Farm Journal's YouTube channel and anywhere podcasts are found. So until next time, let's move some iron.